Good evening, Draftaholics, and welcome to Draft Punks. I'm Sam.
And I'm Adrian.
And we have a week's worth of experience playing Outlaws of Thunder Junction draft, which means that we have a final, conclusive, 100% done tier list for the format.
This is the final one. We're done. Format solved.
And it's not up for debate. You can't argue with any of what we're saying. So if you leave comments, we're just going to tell you that you're wrong. Please try again by agreeing with us.
Yeah, I like that. A good policy.
That's just how this works. I don't make the rules. Good. So 1 week worth of data. Let's have a look at kind of how we're feeling at this stage of it. So I think that in tier 1, I think that the kind of baseline strategy of the format is the green multicolor decks. Now, I think that what we've all noticed so far is that the format is powerful. Everything's powerful. The commons, the uncommons, very powerful, but it is fairly bomby as well. I generally don't like banging on about bombs. I think it's generally exaggerated, but this format has some pretty busted rares, and there's quite a lot of them. So one of the best strategies is play green, which has just good cards anyway. Common, uncommon, rare, they're all really good. And you get all of the fixing from green, so you can just play every mega powerful card that you come across. Would you kind of roughly agree with me there that that's kind of our starting point for the format?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm going to defer to your opinion because I have played literally 3 or 4 drafts so far.
No. Just pretend that you're experienced.
Okay.
And I get to pin my bad takes on you as well.
Maybe not. But I have played with on this channel and seen other people play with just Bonnie Paul and Gigantic Cow. To know that the card is really good and that card has green in it, so probably that's a fine enough reason.
That's it. And so to combat that kind of metagame, there's a couple of different directions you can go. One is you just do that yourself. And so that's why I think it's in tier 1. It's a good strategy. The problem is you end up in like a bit of an arms race sort of situation where whoever's got the biggest, most powerful green bomb deck is going to come out on top. So, like I had one of these decks recently where I cast Bonnie Paul and I'm like, great, I win, your turn. And then they fractured identitied my Bonnie Paul. So, the goal in those matchups is just go completely over the top, be the biggest one. But when everybody is like ramping up and like trying to be as big as possible, you can combat that in a couple of ways. One is by going fast, by going under. Unfortunately, well, I think fortunately, that's not actually very good in this format. I've yet to see a particularly convincing aggro deck. But what I have liked, and these are my picks for the top 2 places where you want to be at the moment, are the blue control decks, in particular blue-black control and blue-white control.
Which, may I add, is possibly the most Sam opinion ever.
Look, this is objectively correct. We have 7 whole days worth of data. You can't argue with this. This is just objective fact. I don't know what else to tell you.
I guess so. We did sort of make a pretty damn good video with the blue-black control deck. Yeah,
so if you're new here and want to see a good example of that blue-black control sort of thing, go check out our most recent video. It was a really good example of that. I should note that all of the decks we're putting on here should probably have an X on the end of them because they will often splash. The blue-black control deck will often splash green for some silly bomb, for example. The blue-white one will often splash either red or black, depending on what it needs. But yeah, the blue-black control is driven by, I keep wanting to call it disinformation campaign. Intimidation campaign is its like card advantage thing. And blue-white control can go in a couple of different directions, but there's a bunch of different payoffs for playing at instant speed. But both of them just benefit from, there's a lot of good counter spells, cheap counter spells. Phantom Interference is really good. There's a bunch of interaction that you can play at instant speed. And so the whole idea is that you just play entirely on your opponent's turn, and you get to play with counter spells, removal, protection spells like Take Up the Shield, and threats in blue-white in particular, because you can play Holy Cow and the blue-white 5-drop gold thing. Like, you can play a lot of your threats on your opponent's turn as well. So it just gives you a lot of flexibility, and you just get to play cheaper and more efficient than those big green decks. And that's how I've been trying to combat the format so far. So those have been my favorite ways. So there's my tier 1. I would say it's the 2 good blue control decks and the green multicolor decks are kind of where I'm starting.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I guess being able to play your threats at instant speed is pretty cool.
It's nice that because it puts the opponent in a real bind, right? They see that you've got a counterspell open, so they don't run out their best threat, and then you let it resolve, and then they get to combat. And they don't want to go for a combat trick because you've got all your mana open. They don't want to get blown out. And you get to the end of the turn, and you flash in a 5-mana threat. So it puts them in a really tough position. Do they run into the counter spells? Do they run into the removal spells? Do they let you develop your board? Which is part of why I've found the gameplay in this format a lot of fun. Like trying to dance around all those things is really interesting. Coming into tier 2, and I should say, honestly, all of these have felt perfectly playable. Even the very last deck I've got on here, I think is perfectly good, which is, I think, a sign of a really good format. Green-white mounts is the one that everyone's kind of talking about as kind of possibly the best deck in the format. Credit to Adrian for spotting that one pretty early.
Well, they put it on the little sheet in the booster box, but you know.
take credit.
Okay, take it.
But yeah, so green-white mounts is very good. The green cards are just really nice, and it's kind of the only good, I don't want to say aggressive, but like assertive.
Assertive.
It puts the pressure on. So if you're looking to just like put the pressure on those big green decks, or like just kind of get under the control decks, I do think green-white is a good place to start. Just the curve of that stupid 3-1 into Miriam is pretty hard to deal with. Trained Arrows is the name of that thing. So that's a good place to be as well. I don't think it's as good as everyone's been going on about, but I do think it is good. And then everything else in tier 2 is basically the other green decks. Green-black graveyard, I've enjoyed quite a bit. There's a lot of reanimation in this set. And there's a lot of just silly things that you can reanimate.
I like green-blue chunky.
Green-blue chunky is... I don't have a lot of experience with this one, because if you're green-blue, you're probably just green multicolor.
Isn't it meant to be the plot archetype?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Oh.
Well, at least I haven't done that yet. Again, if you've got experience with this, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. But in my experience, it's you play with the big green chunky guys, Bonnie Paul, and
yeah, of course, why not?
And then some of the good blue interaction, or there's I can't remember the name of it, the spree card that can put a card of theirs on top and give one of your guys unblockable, +1 counter on unblockable. Works really nicely with the green guys. So that's why I kind of think of that one. It is, yeah. So I think there's an archetype there. You play giant beavers in that card and just kind of make your big dudes unblockable. Which is why I kind of think of it as, blue-green chunky rather than blue-green plot. But yeah, I don't think you'll end up there very often, because I think if you're blue-green, you're probably just going to be a green multicolor bombs deck. But I have done it once. Like I had a Bonnie Paul and I didn't have any reason to go any other direction. So it can certainly happen. Red-green chunky is kind of the other good assertive deck, I think. I think it's not as good as green-white, but it can certainly be good. Just honestly, any deck that just curves Drowsing Pteranodon, Bristling Sentry, the 2-mana 3/3, into a bunch of big dudes is going to be successful. And that's mostly in green, and so if you want to support that with the white mounts cards or the red aggro cards or removal spells, I think either of those is a totally fine strategy if you want to be a little bit more aggressive. I think there's like a Naya build in there as well, but I haven't tried that myself yet, so I'm not sure what the go there is. And then I've tried the blue-red double spell tempo thing a bit.
Yeah, so have I.
What have your experiences been?
I think it's good, but you got to get really hooked up.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bit like blue-red in the last set, even, where the middle of the road blue-red deck is a bit meh, but if you get really hooked up, it's quite good. But you've got to get really hooked up for it to be that good.
I quite like that take on it. Yeah. I started a little higher on it because I really like the blue control spells, but it's been getting bumped down and down and down. It won't surprise me if it ends up in the bottom tier. It's just it's not quite fast enough, and it's not quite disruptive enough for either the green multicolor decks or the control decks. If you get a really good version of it, it can be really good, but I started high, but it hasn't performed for me more recently. And then, is that kind of roughly where you've ended up?
Roughly where I've ended up. I'm sure there's a 17 lands deck report out there that I can consult to really figure out what I did and how I went. But yeah, I was like blue, red, and it was a bit meh. The thing I found is like I might have had spells, but like there's not enough stuff to target to cast 2 spells in a turn. Like it's kind of hard to cast these 2 spells in a turn because they're either expensive and you would prefer to like cast your spree spells for like more mana, which is 1 spell a turn to get more value. I don't know. It's tricky.
Yeah, or they're reactive, right? A lot of the blue-red things are, like, first of all, counter spells work terribly in that sort of strategy.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
even if they're removal spells, a big part of this format is making sure you use your removals smart. So that you're not just, like, taking out their random 2 or 3 drop and you've saved it for the dragon that's coming. But if you're trying to double spell every turn, it can lead you to, need to just kill the random 2/1 just to get your double spell triggers. It's awkward. It can be powerful, but I'm leaning much more towards blue-black and blue-white at this point if I want to be blue, which I might. And then rounding things out, I've not been particularly impressed with black-white, white-red, or black-red. They can be good. I've seen good versions of them. We've played against a really good black-white sacrifice deck. We've played against a really good black-red outlaws deck. They can get there, so don't avoid these. Don't take it as us saying these are bad and you should avoid them. Although white-red, maybe I should put white-red at the very bottom, actually. I've yet to see a convincing white-red deck.
I have seen, and here's where I get contrary.
Go. I
have seen 2 very convincing white-red decks.
Okay, what did they feature? What made them good?
So I've seen a white-red deck that is kind of like the blue-white deck, where it plays a lot of the white past the turn playoffs and just drafts mono derailment.
Oh, explosive derailment. Okay,
it just kills everything you play. And meanwhile, their stupid prairie dog is becoming enormous.
I think that says a lot about the power of prairie dog, which I like a lot, and less about white-red. But no, I see. I mean, that's basically just playing like a, like a white-red control strategy almost. My question then is, how do you catch up on cards?
I mean, good question. I don't know. I'm just speaking from what I've played against and seen. I've definitely seen a lot of that X red and white spell come down on turn 7 and just fill the board with rando dudes. That's tricky.
And I've seen people pair that with Vial Smasher, which pings them
for a lot
every time an outlaw enters. Yeah, so like a Mardu combination, outlaws sacrifice something. I think there's something there. I haven't explored much in that space myself at the moment, so it goes to tier 4 because if I haven't done it, it must be bad. But that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I've been very impressed by green either multicolor bombs or green kind of assertive mounts. I've been impressed by blue control, particularly with black and white. And then the kind of Mardu flavored thing, there is something there, and I think they can be good, but it's not where I'm trying to steer my drafts at the moment.
Well, there you've heard it. The final word on Outlaws of Thunder Junction Limited.
So the plan is we're going to try and do one of these every week. This one will probably be a little bit longer because we're just kind of getting introduced to how the format's looking. But we're going to try and update this. We'll kind of, and we'll make it a little bit more, not niche and granular as we discover new kind of niche archetypes or build-arounds that you can move towards, that sort of thing. We'll kind of pop that in as we discover it. And we'll kind of see how the format evolves.
But there will be the obligatory at least 5-minute praise session from Sam to Intimidation campaign.
Yeah, and I think did we talk about that enough? Like, really, I don't think we covered that enough. Can we talk a little bit more about Intimidation campaign?
No, I think we should end this very short video.
Okay,
it's over now.
Nice. Okay, if you are new here, with the Draft Monks, we do draft videos every week. We do a bunch of other content. We do pre-release guides and some other strategy stuff. But we love our weekly drafts. We take a bit of a different view on a format. We tend to like finding the hidden things to discover and the cool things that you can pull off in a given format. So if that sounds of interest to you, we would love to have you join our silly little community. Just hit that subscribe button just down there.
Smack it!
Hit it really hard. Like,
smack the shit out of it.
Violence is what we're calling for in the subscription process. Okay, video's over now.